Hi guys, so today for our chapter 13 and 14 mini lecture, I will be discussing the differences between symmetric and asymmetric bilateral transfer. So starting off with defining bilateral transfer, bilateral transfer is the transfer of learning that occurs between two limbs. It is also known as the intermanual transfer, the cross transfer, or cross education. So, as discussed in the lecture, you're gonna start off with the preferred limb. So, let's take example of kicking a soccer ball. So they're gonna kick with their dominant foot for the pre-test and the practice trials, then post-test, and then they're going to move on after to their non-preferred limb, and they will do the pre-test and the post-test as well. So the direction of bilateral transfer is important to consider when talking about asymmetric or symmetric transfer. For asymmetric transfer, a greater transfer from one limb will happen than going from another limb. So one leg will be stronger than the other, one arm will be stronger than the other, etc. And then for symmetric transfer, the amount of transfer will be similar from one limb to another, regardless of which one was used first. So that's the same if I believe the professor explained that if you're on the right side of your body, your left leg will feel the same instead of your right arm, if that makes sense. So, moving on to chapter 14, I will be discussing verbal cues and giving some examples of how they can be used when learning a skill or relearning a situation. Verbal cues should be short and consistent phrases that are directly said for the performer's attention to regulatory conditions in the environmental context, and verbal cues must promote key movements of the skills, and they can also be used in several different ways as well. Also, the shorter the phrase is, the more helpful it is going to be as well. So, some examples of using verbal cues. I've been taking Pilates recently, so one I hear a lot when you're learning about core engagement is they tell you draw your belly button into your spine, which reminds you to really activate your deep core without gripping and using your lower back, and then correcting your technique or relearning a phrase I also hear a lot is keep your pelvis still, because then it helps eliminate the compensations. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you in the next chapter.